Hi, I'm Scott, and welcome back to Heroes Among Us. This is episode 5 of The Night We Lost the USS Leary. Before I begin tonight's episode, I want to make something clear. What you're about to hear is based on the stories told by survivors of the USS Leary and the memories they shared at reunions in the decades after the war. Much of it is drawn directly from their own words, and some of it has been dramatized for effect. Some names have been changed. We cannot know every detail exactly as it happened that night, but we can honor their experiences by retelling them as faithfully as possible. In the 1990s, John Midwatch Morrison and I wrote a book, December 24, 1943, The Night We Lost the USS Leary. Many of these stories were documented in that book, some were not. Midwatch was the Schenck's executive officer that night. He was dropped off at the site of the sinking in the Schenck's captain's gig with a pharmacist's mate, the ship's dock, and a few others to try and keep as many of the survivors alive until Schenck returned some hours later. Schenck couldn't just stop to pull men from the water. If she did, she'd be a sitting target. Her first duty was clear: chase off the U-boats, sink them if she could. Only then could she circle back for the survivors. Even slowing long enough to lower the captain's gig was a deadly gamble. It sounds cold, it sounds cruel, but this was combat, and in that moment, survival meant making the hardest choices. This was war. There was no time for mercy. And as you can imagine, it was a very long and costly night. But we'll get into that shortly. There are so many stories from that night that we cannot fit them all into one episode. In fact, I couldn't fit them all into this book. So part of the series, Into the Water, will be told dramatically over several episodes to give their memories the time and the weight that they deserve. Now let's go to that night, Christmas Eve, 1943. The Leary had been fighting for her life all night. Depth charges, sonar pings, the endless rolling of the sea. The younger sailors clung to their stations, wide-eyed and trembling, but doing their duty. The older hands tried to steady them with quiet words of encouragement. Leary and Schenck had both seen their share of the battle for the North Atlantic. Leary knifed through the heaving North Atlantic, her hull shuddering with each crashing wave. The sea was an unrelenting force, black, bitterly cold, and churning with an unnatural energy, as if it sensed the violence unfolding beneath its surface. Boatswain's mate John Cloud, or Black Cloud as he was known, passed word through the ship. Water temps 48 degrees, wind steady at 15 to 30 knots, moderate to heavy seas. The men barely reacted. They already knew anyone going overboard tonight wouldn't last long. But there was no time to dwell on the cold. Another storm was rolling in, and the real enemy wasn't the sea. It was out there somewhere, hunting them in the dark. It was 01:30 Christmas Eve, but there were no festive lights, no carols, no peace. The USS Leary was at war, and right in the middle of it. She cut through the frigid waters, her crew weary from weeks of relentless patrols. They had just finished a particularly horrific convoy with many losses. Her cooks tried to ease the tension as best they could. They were busy preparing a rare treat in the mess deck, Boston cream pie. But it would never be served. Above them, stars fought to pierce the thick cloud cover, but the weather seemed determined to smother all light and hope. The Schenck was about 6 miles distant. The ships were running a coordinated seek and destroy pattern. Leary was also chasing down multiple surface contacts, more U-boats. At 01:54, Leary pinged a contact off her starboard bow. A star shell was fired to illuminate the target, then another. Only one should have been fired. This illuminated Leary in an eerie bright white 3D flickering glow. A fatal consequence. Now silhouetted from different angles, the U-boats could target her with ease. Unknown to Leary, U-275's commander had her in the periscope for over 10 minutes. Now with the Leary clearly illuminated, the U-boat had the firing solution, and the commander ordered 2 torpedoes fired. "Why in the holy hell would they do that?" Black Cloud shouted. "Why in the living hell?" As Cloud ran forward to the gun mount, he screamed, "Cease fire! Cease fire!" Another star shell. Who ordered that? Morons! Cloud sprinted along the wet and rolling deck towards the gun. Son of a bitch, he screamed. Torpedo inbound, starboard side. Cloud heard the seaman yell as he pointed to the bubbling wake of a torpedo headed straight for the ship. God damn, Cloud screamed. The warning came too late. The torpedo struck. A deafening explosion ripped through the Leary's hull, hurling men from their stations. The ship shuddered violently. She lurched up and then rolled 25 degrees starboard, her structure groaning in protest as one torpedo from U-275 struck the aft engine room. Fires erupted in an instant, the acrid stench of burning oil filling the air. Then, dead silence. The ship's lights went out, all black. All systems stopped. A torpedo was fired from a second U-boat, U-382, but missed. Leary had steamed right into a Wolfpack ambush. Cloud was on the deck, his head bleeding profusely. The seaman who screamed the warning was gone, blown overboard. Cloud tried to comprehend what had just happened. Chief, we've been hit. What should I do? Cloud sat up. God damn, there will be more. The seaman looked at Cloud, his eyes full of fear. More what? All hands, damage control aft, Commander James Keyes bellowed, his voice cutting through the chaos. The stern of the ship was a twisted mess of wreckage, metal, and bodies. The ship's steam horn began to blast as if the ship itself was in agony. Sailors scrambled, their shoes slipping on the wet steel deck as they rushed to contain the inferno. But the Leary was already listing hard to starboard. She was dead in the water, no power, no steerage. Her fate had been sealed. There would be more torpedoes, as Cloud's grim warning predicted. Without propulsion and steerage, Leary is now a sitting duck. At her helm that night was Commander James Ellsworth Keyes. Born in Everett, Washington in 1906, a track star, a Naval Academy graduate, a sailor who had gone through every lesson the sea could teach him. In 1942, the Navy gave him command of the USS Leary. And on this night, Christmas Eve, 1943, his ship was dying beneath his feet. Keyes calmly and courageously surveyed the damage. He gave the last order of his life: abandon ship. Below deck, the heat and the steam were searing. Men were suffocating. Many had died in the initial explosion. Ensign Robert Hayes, barely 22, coughed as he dragged a wounded shipmate through the smoke-filled passageway. He was bleeding from multiple wounds, having been slammed against the bulkhead when the torpedo hit. His thoughts raced not on Christmas or home, but on survival. He was now running on instinct and training. There was no time to think. He focused on getting above deck with as many men as he could rescue. The screams of the trapped men echoed through the corridors, a haunting reminder of the ship's plight. Then, as Cloud had predicted, a huge fireball engulfed the Leary. The second torpedo exploded. Leary shuddered and heaved. Ensign Hayes was thrown violently into a bulkhead, and all went black. On the deck, "She's going over," someone shouted above the din, panic now rippling through the crew. Cloud ran among the young seamen on the deck, grabbing each one on the shoulder, offering a faint reassurance. "This is it, boys. Goddamn, we're gonna get wet. Get your head screwed on straight. You'll jump, and I'll tell you when to jump and not a goddamn second before. We all go together, got it? Then you'll swim like a son of a bitch to get away from her, and don't stop to look back. We'll be okay. You hear me, boys? Stay together." "Aye, aye, Chief," they all responded in a well-rehearsed unison, just like in boot camp and the abandoned ship drills. In the radio room, Radioman First Class Jerry Pence frantically tried to start the emergency generator. While it always started, of course, this night it didn't want to start. Pence and Chief Radioman Eric Johnson were determined to get it going. Finally, it sputtered alive. "Radio! Hell yeah, we have radio!" Pence screamed. "Position, time, status, send it now," Chief Johnson patted Pence on the back. "Good work, son." Pence buckled himself into the seat. Items began sliding off tables and the shelves. His coffee cup hit the deck and shattered. He grabbed the TBS microphone and began calling SOS. Johnson got on the bug, a high-speed Morse code key, and began to send a Morse code message. Hopefully Card, Schenck, or someone will acknowledge. The SOS message was sent. Pence and Chief waited. Nothing. Okay, crank up the power. Make the tubes glow white, Chief ordered. But Chief, do it. We might get through to Reykjavik, Gibraltar, or Card. No one knows where we are. This is about survival, son. Do it. Pence could tell Chief was gravely concerned. Making the tubes glow white is against Navy regulations. It can burn them out in mere seconds. But it gave the radio a boost that it could save their lives. They only had minutes to go before it would be too late, and they would have to leave their posts. Skenk's got us. I've got Robbie, Pence cheered. He told Robbie the situation and location. Schenck is 6 miles away. They know where we are and that it's bad. They're chasing down several U-boats and in the middle of it themselves, Pence said. In his mind, he was praying, please God, don't let Schenck get hit, too. Damn, she's so far away. Good work, son. Now get out. I'll stay. Chief ordered. The radio room cleared. Pence and another radio man looked at Chief Johnson. They were in their early 20s. Chief Johnson, considered an old man, was in his 40s. But Chief, go boys, I'm staying. God be with you, Chief. They silently knew Chief had just sealed his fate. He would keep transmitting, but his chances of getting off the ship were slim. As they exited the radio room, Pence took one last look around. He grabbed his diary. His eyes met the Chief. Chief winked. Go. I've got this, son. Pence paused for a moment, then exited and dogged the watertight door behind him. What his eyes saw on deck, his mind couldn't comprehend. Smoke, steam, men running, the ship's steam horn blaring, the stench of fires and fuel, oil, and bodies. Lots of bodies. Leary was in her death throes. She was rolling and sinking fast by her stern. Pence knew this was bad. He was afraid. This is Christmas Eve and I'm going to die. How can that be? He thought. Commander Keyes paused beside Pence. The ship was screaming, steel twisting, men shouting, but his voice was calm. Are you all right, son? Pence looked up. Yes, sir, I'm fine. Keyes gave a faint nod and reassured him with a pat on the shoulder. Good. Then it's time for you to get off the ship, son. Aye, aye, sir. And just like that, the commander moved on, checking, steadying, guiding his men into the dark. Pence looked over the carnage on the afterdeck. But wait, the explosion hurled Boston cream across the deck, a sticky, sweet reminder of a holiday cut short. And as Leary was dying, 2 sailors sat on the torpedo tubes, eating what they could, a few bites of sweetness in a night of fire, salt, steel, and death. What went through their minds? I can't swim. I'm going to die, so might as well go out happy. We'll never know. Those men did not survive. Commander Keyes did not rush to leave the others. He walked her decks one last time, making sure every man was clear. Then he saw a sailor with a torn, useless life jacket. Keyes didn't hesitate. He stripped off his own and gave it away. A commander's final act, sacrifice. Commander Keyes did not survive. This is only the beginning of their ordeal. In coming episodes, we'll hear more of their voices, the prayers, the desperate attempts to stay alive, and the bonds that held them together through the longest night of their lives. This is their story, piece by piece, memory by memory, and we will honor it. In the next episode, we'll continue to follow the men of the Leary as they assess the damage and abandoned ship. Tell me in the comments if you think you could have survived that night. And why were the 2 men on the back of the afterdeck calmly eating Boston cream while the ship was sinking? Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Until then, never forget the heroes among us. God bless. Stay safe. Out.